My name's Priscilla Fernandez. I'm going to be your Zoom host here for today. I'm going to be assisting our amazing presenters. So welcome to the breakout session, Building Momentum Behind CTE. And we have our amazing speakers. And right now I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping items. Make sure to please keep yourself muted. If you have any questions, please enter them through the WOVA site. And I will be able to relay them to our great speakers. And also, I posted a link in the chat on the site in case you want to follow the presentation. And the session is also being recorded if you want to watch the session after the fact as well. So please rate the session also afterward. So with that, I will hand it off to our speakers to get started.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Priscilla. So yes, like she said, welcome to Building Momentum Behind CTE. My name is Kristen Ereno. I am a career counselor and CTE coordinator for the Coronado Unified School District.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Stevenson, and I am the lead CTE counselor in Poway Unified School District. So I support our counselors, K through 12, with all the college and career readiness for our district.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andreanna Murphy. I also am a district counselor with our San Diego Unified School District, and I support our students TK through 12 as well in our SDUSD CCTE office.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for being here and presenting with myself. And we're just really excited for everybody to be here. And please feel free, as Priscilla said, to put any questions that you have in the chat as we're going along so we can just have a conversation. We want this to be informative, but also interactive. So please feel free to do that. So this kind of idea came about as we meet as CTE counselors once a month, and we're in our conversations, we realize that as school counselors, we're really never informed of this is CTE, this is what it means, this is how to help advocate for it, or this is to help it with students. So it's just kind of like learning as we go, since there's no formal training around it. And so we just wanted to put this together and really just have a conversation around CTE for school counseling. So today we're going to talk about CTE for school counselors, what is it and why, opportunities for students, master schedule planning, and then we're going to get a little bit into recruitment and marketing and alignment to post-secondary, and then we'll finish with some action steps. We want this to be a practical workshop for you, and some questions and answers we'll leave time for. So in the chat, if you could just introduce yourself, your role, and any questions you have right now or anything specific you would like to get out of this breakout session.
And I know even to start it off, and we already have a question that I'm sure you'll get to answer, but it's what CTE programs does your school offer?
So perfect. Yes, we will do that. There is some drawing on the, does anyone else see that? Oh. Drawing on the presentation, or no, we're good. Okay. So if you could just put that in the chat, that would be great. And I physically can't see that. Emily or Andreanna, can you bring that up, or maybe Priscilla, just if there's any questions or anything specific, if you can just let us know, that would be great. And then as everybody's putting that their introductions in, I just want you to take a little time to self-reflect. So think about your specific knowledge of CTE and your CTE pathways offered at your site, and use that kind of as a guiding framework as we're going through the presentation. So be thinking of things and students maybe that go along with your CTE pathways. So as we go through this, I'll give you just a minute to think about that, and then we'll venture on. Priscilla, are there any questions?
No questions as of yet.
Okay,
yeah,
fabulous. So we'll get started. I'm going to turn it over to Emily, but before that, we're going to watch a little 2-minute video.
Everyone wants kids to be ready to take on the real world, right? So what's the secret? Say hello to CTE. CTE is Career Technical Education. Maybe you've never heard of it, but CTE gives learners an academic foundation along with technical skills and hands-on experience in a whole bunch of different areas to help them get ready for the real world. Think of CTE as a high school experience, but with even more value because it fills a big gap for a lot of students. In fact, CTE learners and their parents are 3 times as likely to say they're very satisfied with the ability to learn real-world skills as part of their education as compared to non-CTE learners and their parents. And since over 75% of CTE learners enroll in post-secondary education after high school, CTE is definitely creating a path to college and career success. And get this, they have a graduation rate over 10% higher than non-CTE students. Did you know 89% of parents think students should receive more education about career choices while in high school? That's where CTE comes in. Think about it. Is it better to experiment with career choices when you're paying money to do so in college? Or should it happen in high school so students know a lot earlier whether a career option is the right fit? The answer is fairly obvious, don't you think? Now let's talk about why CTE is good for business and industry. It's pretty simple. Companies want skilled employees, and they're having a hard time finding them, which can cost a company money in lost productivity. Enter CTE. 6 of the 10 hardest to fill positions are in technical fields or require a CTE background. In fact, about half of all CTE learners are enrolled in programs in leading fields such as healthcare, STEM, and information technology, matching employer needs with student passions. CTE programs directly connect learners in high school and post-secondary with employers through internships, apprenticeships, and other meaningful on-the-job experiences. When it comes to CTE, more than twice as many CTE parents report being satisfied with internship opportunities. That means a lot of doors are being opened for kids. So here's the bottom line. Parents want their kids to find a career they can be passionate about. Kids want the same thing. And when you think about the real world, what could be better than having learners enter a field they know is right for them with a ton of hands-on experience? It's all possible thanks to CTE. CTE, learning that works for America. To learn more, visit careertech.org.
Okay.
And I just wanted to share some of our audience members. So we've got a K-12 Pathways Coordinator from Santa Clara County Office of Education, a counselor from Oceanside High School, from Morse High School, school counselor, master scheduler, really hoping to learn about building interest in recruitment and programs. We've got a counselor from Eastlake High School, CTE Pathways Intervention Counselor. So just across the board, a representation from across the region. So really exciting, and I just wanted to share.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Priscilla.
Great. So that's awesome. I love it. And I think, probably many of you have already seen this graphic from the CDE, but I think it definitely depicts all of the 15 industry sectors that we have. In our district, we offer 12 of the 15 across our district. So this is a great thing to just kind of have up at your school sites and your counseling offices to really start educating counselors, teachers about CTE if there isn't already an awareness. So there's that. If you want to go to the next slide, Kristen. Oops. And so I think the first thing to do is just to really increase understanding of CTE. I think that's the hardest thing. This is my 4th year in Poway, and I will be completely transparent that before starting in this position, I did not know what CTE was. And I've worked in college admissions, I've worked at other high schools, but I had never heard of CTE before working in it. And even now attending conferences, I often hear a lot of misunderstandings about what career technical education is. So I think the big things that I hear, it's for those students. It's for those students that are really not college bound. It's for those students that are just going into the workforce. People still confuse CTE and vocational education or ROP, which they're different. So CTE, the pathways lead to 2-year degrees, certifications, 4-year degrees. I think my favorite thing about CTE classes is the hands-on experience that students get, that they actually can apply the knowledge, and that they really align with and are a part of a rigorous coursework. So they really supplement those core English, math, social science classes, and even are, in some cases, those classes when you look at the A through Gs. Those Project Lead the Way courses that are D science classes when you're looking at A through G, or computer science that can be an AP, or many other APs can align with CTE courses or B CTE courses. So these classes really are providing students with real world knowledge, real skills, preparing students to better understand themselves so they can make informed decisions about post-secondary options. Whether that does mean going straight into industry, whether it means going to a 2-year institution or a 4-year institution, and the transferable skills that they're going to get across the board, that I think truly is the best part of it. And then also that it just really focuses on the whole child. So really helping them to fine tune what are their passions, what are their interests. If they take a class and they hate it, great, that was a success, because that is a learning experience for them. And I love that they're learning about it in high school. They're not waiting until college and realizing, wait, I can't be a doctor because I can't stand the sight of blood. Or I can be a doctor, but maybe I'm not this kind of doctor. Maybe I'm working in healthcare in a different way. Because we've all heard that story about the student who is bound to be pre-med, and then the first time they see the sight of blood, they pass out. So definitely just helping students hone in on those skills, develop leadership skills, develop self-advocacy skills, and really explore a multitude of different careers that exist.
Awesome. And to piggyback, what our team has said here is, I did steal this phrase, and I don't know who said it, but CTE it's not your grandfather's way of taking electives anymore. And I always go back to, it's not 1984. It's a whole different world in public education. And these opportunities aren't isolated. They can double and triple dip. And we can talk a little more about that. But those are some of those misconceptions, is that these are isolated programs for a select few. And the reality is our automotive programs of the 40s, 50s, and 60s are nothing and nowhere near what they are now. And kind of a, did you know, RUC doorways, if you pull up STEM automotive engineering, we now have G, I don't want to call it credit, but G categories for, I would say, probably 90 to 95% of our CTE courses. So the good news is, this is a multi-layer program that can fit in so many domains. All righty. So for the next slide is, why should students enroll in our CTE? And I challenge you to come up, why shouldn't they, right? These are programs for all students in all grade levels. We've talked about the hands-on experience, but the deep depth and breadth they'll get with industry speakers and these exposure, excursions, experiences. And we know in the counseling land with all of our ASCA standards that are career aligned. It wasn't until I stepped into this specific position and saw what teachers are looking at with their standards in their various classrooms and programs, how much career overlap there was. And I thought to myself, gosh, if I had known this when I was at the high school site years ago, I would have been able to present so much fantastic data. And the teacher said the same. If I'd known, we could have tag team. We were working in silos. And this is just a way to build strong relationships at your school site with your teachers as well. The internships and the work-based learning, I'll tell you right now, when I first, again, got into this and when I was in the counseling at the high school site, I thought, oh my gosh, I'd love to do this, but where's the time? Where's the time? The great news is this disruption we had in education and moving into virtual, took down so many barriers. We were able to get students everywhere with the drop of a Zoom link, and they could experience things that they never got to experience before. With so many fantastic platforms that we have, kids are being able to get VR, virtual reality, AR, augmented reality, and getting these 3D tours of things that they weren't able to see before or that just weren't logistically doable. The essential skills, we talked about that earlier, as I mentioned, the blending of what's happening in the classroom and all that overlap that we have in our counseling programs with our ASCA standards. And then my favorite, and this is where in the state of California, we are picking up and we are, taking names right now, is these industry certificates and the early college credit possibilities and opportunities are fantastic. We know that we can have students in every seat in our high school leave high school with a high school diploma and a college transcript, a grade, a college course. And this is doable for all learners, and it is 100% possible for all. So we definitely are moving away from those kids or select few or handpicking, and these are tier one. This is for everybody. All righty, we'll move right into the next slide. So in the best scenario, which I always aim for is the best scenario, is this pathway completion, giving students that introduction course. What is that like? What does that look like? Let's feel it out, building on it through the concentration or the concentrator course, and then that capstone. And next level of this is we have the term pathway completers that many of our districts are using. And students need to complete 2 within that pathway in that sequence. So master schedule, I know, was mentioned in the chat, and there are master schedule constraints, but I can tell you with creative and strategic planning, creating a student-driven master schedule is the key, student driven. When you have numbers and you can show career interest and you can show that the sustainability and mapping these out 2-3 years in advance, your staffing just falls into play. So many teachers, once they understand, oh, this is what this means for me long-term, sign me up. You'll be amazed at how much buy-in you will have. The sequences is important. We do put emphasis on that. And that means having students start as early as they can. This is something that school sites can struggle with, and sometimes counselors do too, is really these aren't standalones. I don't like using the word elective. I'm kind of trying to get that out of our language and get really into these pathway programs, and encouraging students that there are so many skills within the courses you're taking and that these sequences build and that there's added value. A side note here is that as we continue to move into college application season, and the fact that SATs and ACTs are no longer being asked for by so many sites, we've got to really game change here and think, how are colleges going to be looking at students? Well, of course, you're pathway completers, and the rest of our team can definitely jump into this, but being able to show consistency, that you've stuck through programs and that you've had success in them is key. All righty. Here are some examples. We call them one-pagers in our district, but they're those attention grabbers. They give the breakdown. They're not lengthy into words and words of explaining it, but it just showcases what your time commitment is. And this is one here from Torrey Pines. It'll showcase what is available at that particular school and school district. And all of our school sites and districts have these one-pagers that can showcase. All right, moving into slide 9. I think Kristen was going to speak on this for a little bit.
Yeah, Emily, did you want to say anything about Poway?
So our pathway documents have really evolved, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. They are on our website. So if you go to PowayUSD.com/CTE, you'll find these in the student section. But these are new ones that we created last year, because the thing that I found is there was still a lot of confusion among counselors and school sites about what a pathway completer is and what makes a pathway completer. And there was confusion between industry sector and pathway. And so I tried to make these actually started as just a one-sheeter. They weren't one sheet, but for counselors that just showed the pathway, the courses within that pathway, the level, and then whether or not they got college credit. And the thing that I love about it, and I think the counselors, and I worked with counselors at the school sites to develop them, is when they're meeting with a student, they can take a quick glance. Is this in the same pathway? Will this make the student a completer? And as it's just marketing, really. It's really marketing and education. And I think that's really helping, as well as giving students recognition for being completers. So, if you saw this whole sheet on our website, it would be every single industry sector at that high school and divided into pathway.
And moving into the next slide is just a showcase of what we have created too in our district with the starting in 6th grade, and just looking at what the requirements are for the high school graduation, what our career technical courses are, additional requirements, our college coursework, which is our CCAP. We're going to be adding here in the gray bar all of our work-based learning opportunities, and then with ONET where the occupations fall. And then at the bottom are the post-secondary opportunities within our school partnerships at the San Diego Community College District. And these have all evolved as well. They're always ongoing, they're always working, they're works in progress. And maybe we can just mention too, Kristen's position, mine and Emily's, they're fairly new. And it's exciting to have this counselor role in this specific department because our energies are focused solely on the awareness and sending out this message and educating all domains, the students, the parents, the staff, our own counselors, middle school, elementary, our our district leaders, and our community members. I'll give anybody that when I'm walking out in my neighborhood and someone stops and asks what I do and we start a conversation, I go in depth as to what this program is. And they seem genuinely excited to hear that our students are really given so many opportunities. All righty, I'll toss it off to Kristen.
Okay, thank you so much. And just to highlight this for San Diego Unified, this is like my dream to create for each one of our pathways. And as Andreanna said, these positions are new. This is my 2nd year in this position. And so, and COVID and everything. So really, this is forever evolving, and some people are, in way different spots. So wherever you're at, and if you don't have a CTE counselor in your district, then you can just ask the questions and see who those people are that can be making those things. So these aren't things that you guys have to develop, especially since you're not CTE counselors. But if you are, this is, something that you can do. But these are just resources for you to be able to access. So for Coronado, we kind of piggyback off of Poway for the one on the right. And so these are kind of some graphic organizers for students, parents, staff, counselors to kind of look at. And then, and we have 16 pathways on our campus. And so this is just for our high school. We also have Coronado School of the Arts. And then on the left is more of kind of back of the house for all of us to be able to see the codes. And so that's adopted from Orange County. So it's really just taking other people's and why reinvent the wheel and see what works for you. And I love the one pagers also that are out there. So the opportunities for students with CTE courses and pathways are just exponential. Many of the classes are A to G approved. And if they're not, I really encourage you to encourage your teachers and educate them on A to G and the importance of it. I know for our district, when I came in, there's several classes that weren't A to G or that still aren't A to G that definitely can be. And, you can work with your teachers, or your district can work with your teachers, and just, looking at other similar CTE classes throughout the that are already approved, and modeling after that, and then editing the assignments. So you definitely can help work with them so they understand that these now courses can go on students' college applications and into their college GPA. So it's really important that if we are going towards that direction of getting them A to G approved, there's also early college credit. So this is, through articulation or dual enrollment within the CTE courses. this, there was a whole presentation on this yesterday. And so I think it's really great if you can go back and listen to that. One of the resources that was developed recently within the last couple weeks is the definitions around early college credit. So you can kind of really learn about that, but I would just recommend, listening to that talk and looking through this to see, it can be, the articulation and what does that mean? And I'll just give you a little synopsis of the articulated credit is when a student takes a class on the high school campus that is taught by the high school teacher, and they have an articulation agreement with the local community college where students can get articulated credit. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and but it's a really great opportunity for students. We have an animation class our CTE animation class that's articulated, and the students are getting 6.5 college credits in computer science, digital media for Southwestern College, because we're articulated. So it's really great opportunities for students. And then of course, dual enrollment. I really, encourage you to talk about the different dual enrollment courses that you're offering at your sites, and maybe have those BCTE classes. We're offering a cybersecurity for the first time this year that's going with our ICT pathway. And we don't have a teacher because we have the Southwestern College teacher to be the professor to be teaching it. So it's just a really great way for students to get that experience and be able to put that on their high school transcript and college transcript if your district allows. So these are really great opportunities as well. Also industry certification. So we've spoken about that a little bit, but this is where they can, earn Adobe, Photo Illustrator, or Photoshop, Illustrator. They can earn an emergency response credential that's recognized within the industry. HVAC, there's limitless drone operating certificates. So if your classes offer these, then students can go to get an internship, employment. It really shows, they can put these on their college application, showing that they really have dedication and those skills for that industry. And then the last one, oh yeah, go for it. Oh, I thought someone was saying
Oh, sorry about that. You might be getting to it, but we have a question here of what's CCI in the fourth box?
Great question. So the last one, so CTE pathway completers can meet the CCI of being prepared for college and career. So CCI is college and career indicator on the California Dashboard. So I was going to just jump into that, but let's just look up the California Dashboard, and we'll just go from the beginning. So I will look at Coronado High, and 2019 results are the ones that are out right now. So, well, within that. So the California Dashboard, if you're not familiar with this, I highly recommend. There's some trainings on this one as well, especially with Jewel Clark from the San Diego County Office of Ed that you can get on the San Diego County Office of Ed, but this is the dashboard. So college and career is one of the indicators on the dashboard. So if you look up college and career, you can go to this, and it will show you where students are meeting and how prepared they are for college and career. If you click on this view additional reports, it will actually break it down further, not just who's meeting it, but how they're meeting it. So you can click on college and career measures, submit, and then you get this report that shows you how students are being prepared for college or for the dashboard. So this is showing for CTE pathway completion. So this is showing that you can have a student meet it by CTE pathway completion. So their second year, they can meet this. And that's one of the indicators that's showing that they're college and career ready. Also the college course I would like to highlight here. So it's 0 here for us because we haven't put those on our high school transcript in the past, any dual enrollment or courses, but now we're starting to do that this coming year. So that's going to help our dashboard as well as the opportunities for students. So those are just some things I wanted to highlight as far as the dashboard and college and career indicators, is CTE has kind of a dual role with that, where students can meet that. And this is, a lot of students that necessarily, maybe they don't need it with the Smarter Balance and they don't need it with the biliteracy seal and AP courses, but sometimes these are students that, can meet it just through CTE pathway completion and A to G. So it's, it's a kind of a combination of opportunities for students to be able to meet that. And not only helps your school, but really helps provide those students the skills that they need to be prepared for college and career.
And I would jump in too and just say, make sure, I mean, I really do encourage you to attend like a pre-recorded training or really look at the website, because it does get a little confusing because it's like this and this. And now work-based learning is a component of that. So it's kind of a lot to digest, and it really is a full session. So if you aren't familiar with CCI, I would encourage you to, the County Office of Ed has them through San Diego, or the CDE also. I'm blanking on the gentleman's name that gives the presentation, but certainly those are ways you can kind of just dive a little deeper and better understand how that impacts your dashboard overall.
That's great. And if you want to email me, I can send you the link to Jewel Clark's presentation for CCI and what that is for school counselors specifically. It's a fantastic presentation where I know I personally learned a lot, and I know our site did as well. We had her come in. So I can send you that link if you would like to email me. I can do that. And then, so next, master schedule placement. So we will all kind of pipe in here because this is really, really important. And as a school counselor, you have influence over the master schedule, and really having that student-driven master schedule, which is just so important. And so like Andreanna said, like student-driven. So, a lot of times CTE is, they fill in everything else first and then plug in CTE classes. And that's not necessarily what's best for students, with them, signing up for these classes, having that interest. And then when there's so many conflicts with CTE classes, that's usually the one that they drop if it conflicts with other classes that they need. So that's why master schedule placement is so important, and not waiting till the last minute, but really having these conversations early on with administrators. And working with your, counselor who's the master schedule counselor that's working mainly with the administration, to really start having these conversations, and also having teachers really advocate for their programs as well. Just so it's not coming from us, we can, say this is what the students want, and then they can hear it from the teachers as well. So kind of collaborating together, and ensure the sequencing and course placement are appropriate. So the sequencing, especially, if you're on a 4x4, making sure that you're offering the right courses in the fall that are setting up for the spring. If you are on a regular schedule, making sure that students are able to complete the sequencing, and then course placement. So make sure that your capstone for your seniors isn't in the last period of the day where most of them take off, or, just making sure that it's going with that. And then the last one is making sure that they're not competing with classes in the same realm. So we, every year it is that, and it's such a conflict, and it's hard when you have a smaller campus and a lot of singletons. That is really hard, I know, but for example, so cybersecurity offered the same, period as AP computer science, or AP calculus offered the same time, or AP calculus, or engineering the same time as AP physics. So a lot of the times those classes are going to be, the same students taking those classes. If it's the capstone of engineering, aerospace, and they need to take AP physics, but there's only one section of each, which do they choose? And so these are just really important when you're having these conversations around master schedule and planning and placement for the students. So you're not having to, take students out because of those conflicts. So it's really all about that preparation for master schedule.
And to piggyback that too, I know that this sometimes can be with the adults in the room, the competition of CCTE versus AP or IB or, and in reality, CCTE is advanced studies. All of these are giving students that next level, that next edge up, that next step in their future. So it is on the same wavelength. It can offer the same exact benefits, especially as we went back to that previous slide. There are equal playing field. So then it's really comes down to being strategic. I am a big fan of the double, triple dip. And what I mean by that is get me an AP class that can get a dual enrollment partnership at the community college that's also part of Project Lead the Way. That exists. That's out there. We already have that available. Give students in 9th grade an opportunity to earn an honors. I keep using Project Lead the Way because it's just fresh in my brain, but you can have your 9th graders start right off the bat with an honors. You can show them in sequence that they could be earning honors, college credit, this and that, and their senior year have room to do others. You could even be strategic enough that you have students do 2 pathways. Some of our pathways are 2 courses. You could have them do 1 pathway, 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th. There are so many options and so many variations, but it really comes down to a small strategic team that is student centered. And those are tough conversations. At least in counseling land, we could say, well, we service students. Hi, admin, you get to deal with teachers. And those are, though, you know, teaching is an emotional profession. We build relationships, you know, there's a lot at stake and we understand that. But in counseling land, student. Also, where do we even start? It's with the students. Gather their interests, get on those platforms, run those reports and say, you know, we've been offering, they always pick on basket weaving. I don't know why, but we'll pick on it today. You know, we've been offering basket weaving since 1923, and we only have 2 kids that want to enroll, but we're going to keep the program. Well, in reality, you could have students that want to get into, you know, the computer science realm and work on drones and start getting their license with that. That's doable. That could be 2-3 classes. But we're just ignoring the students' interest because we've always done it this way. So this is a good time, folks, to really disrupt, look, use COVID to our advantage here in education of all the opportunities that are out there. Emily, did you want to chime in?
I was just going to say is if you look at the state of Maryland, they actually have a great partnership between AP and CTE. And I remember the first year discovering that, and I'm like, well, why don't we do that in California? So I will pose that question. Why don't we do that at our schools? So definitely something to look at if you're looking for examples of the partnership between the academic courses and CTE, because it's really one and the same, and they work together. So
perfect. Priscilla, are we good for time? And do we have any questions?
No questions right now, and we are good.
Perfect. Okay, so this is some of my favorite stuff. I think if I wasn't a school counselor, I tell my husband and kids, I would have gone into a marketing firm and just been the idea lady all day long because I love recruitment and marketing. Messaging. We had to flip the script real fast when we were virtual and figure out how we're going to market to kids when we don't even get to see them and hand them our little flyers and have our little table tents. So we had to get creative. And what we learned was that as we were doing presentations and speaking to students in their homes, in the virtual setting, all these little heads would pop up. We realized real quick that we as adults were guests in their space. And that's a game changer because typically kids come to school and what do you hear? You're in my classroom, my office, my space, my rules. Well, this was a total reversal. We're now in their space. And we realized real quick, thank you for welcoming me into your home. And we'd see all these little heads pop up and hear little voices in the back. And we were like, gold mine. We can now market our programs to everybody listening. We were able to speak to grandparents. We were able to get parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, people that had stopped school, little kids. It didn't matter. We had so many people listening in and chiming in various methods and modalities that we knew that we could just give the message that our programs truly service all. And if there were adults on that call that had questions about what to pursue or change of careers, we were right there to answer. So pathway messaging is huge. And again, we go back to this. It's not your grandfather's ROP program of 1920. We're not just doing oil changes to those that don't want to finish high school and you just kind of go there. This is disruptive. This is huge. We're even going reverse planning. I mean, there's middle schools right now with really strong pathway programs. We're getting into elementaries. Exposure is key. Little dabs. We know that kids love learning from other kids. You bring a high school senior onto a middle school campus, oh my gosh, that is like legendary. You bring middle school leaders into your elementary, oh my gosh, that's a whole nother world. And then if they have brothers and sisters that they know, even bigger, even better. So using all of those to our advantage. Collaboration and communication. I am so grateful for our County Office of Ed, Jewel Clark, for putting together a CTE counselor monthly meeting. And this is where Emily, Kristen, and several of us, we just brainstorm, we get ideas, we feed off each other. As you heard, our positions are pretty new. I had 2-3 months in an office and then COVID, right? So this is up and coming. We're learning from each other, and we love to continue to learn from all of you and strategize. And as a community, build.
We did have a question come through just about the CCI measurements.
Okay.
It's our CCI measurements on the dashboard only based on seniors?
For
Yes.
the pathway completion, yes, yeah. But now our district, we recognize our seniors every year, but our goal is to eventually start recognizing younger students as well, because if we start recognizing it younger, then it's a desired goal younger, at a younger age. So, but we started recognizing our seniors during the Senior Recognition Awards.
All righty, we'll go slide 14. So outreach, I just wanted to touch upon this real quick, and this is just from experience. So years ago, I was part of a Bill Gates grant at a school, and we were set up into small school settings, sharing the main campus here at San Diego High. And outreach was tough. It's hard to convince families and communities that have prior knowledges or experiences to change and kind of pivot and think. And what we realized was, it's our students that are selling our programs to younger students. We found a few key players, and what we learned is they were talking about how amazing these programs were at the bus stop. They were talking about it as they were skateboarding. And once we keyed in on that, this was a gold mine. We realized if we can get in with our students to various sites and programs, outreach would be key, and it's catching on. And for counselors that are on the call and teachers, please note that the universities and colleges, and maybe Emily too can speak a little bit of this, they're hearing this, they're acknowledging this, and they're seeing the added value when they are selecting students for their programs and their institutions as well. Did anyone want to chime in on that component?
I just wanted to say before we move on, there's a link at the bottom here with San Diego County Offices of Ed, recruiting and marketing, kind of full on presentation. So you can just click on that link from the presentation. There's a lot of like the images and things on here. If you just click on that, it'll bring you directly to the website. So feel free to use those to learn a little bit more, because we just kind of took the meat of it for school counselors.
Perfect. And we mentioned in slide 15 already a good chunk of this, what is your pathways going to look like? What are the sequencing going to look like? And again, please don't think this is a one day, one approach and you have to master it all. This is a 2, 3, 4 year phased in plan. It might even be that you start with your 8th graders that are going to be 9th graders next year and start rolling that out. And what does that look like? It might mean that you take a cohort of current 9th graders and follow them and track them and see how that goes. Your teachers are your partners. Find the few that will do anything to have you as a counselor come into their classrooms, because we all have a few that are like, oh, you want to come in and present? Yes, I'll take it. Make those your allies, make them your buds, get those teachers to be partners with you. Brochures, handouts. I'm trying to up my game in social media world, and there's certain skill sets that I have that I love, and some that I'm not as comfortable with, but I've partnered with some friends to get messages out there. Websites, links, as you see here, what does your own school site or district's website say about your pathways? Does it need to be updated? Does it have outdated information? These are big and they're challenging. I always consider some of our, avenues of how we look at programs as Yelp reviews. And I'm sure some of you know, if you go on greatschools.com, it's got all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, who wrote this? It's like a Yelp review. This is inaccurate. But what positive items are you showcasing? How are you airing this information out? Do you have news crews and cameras that come? So, think about that. Kristen, did we want to take the 2 minutes?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
We don't really have the time, but I just encourage you to look at your website. Is it easy for students and parents to find the information, on CTE? Because it is part of our job to get that information out to students, even though the teachers can be the ones developing everything. But reach out to, your webmaster or the teacher and say, hey, this is inaccurate. Can it be updated? So those are just some things. So I just encourage you to look at your own information for your site.
Perfect. And rolling right into our next slide here is, again, the key words: consistency with the messaging, success stories. Everybody loves a success story. Everybody loves a champion, right? We've got the sports ones coming left and right. Where are ours? We've got students doing amazing things, changing lives, disrupting programs. I know in Poway, they were building tiny homes, modules. All of our districts have students doing phenomenal things. But in the counseling realm, they usually just stayed in my office. I never got to that next step. Get your broadcast journalism group, get your pathway various programs to showcase and acknowledge. That is huge. Again, college and career, these go hand in hand. Tons of benefits. We talked about those today. And as counselors do best, keep it positive, right? We smile, we nod, we know that there's room for improvements, but we always keep it positive. All righty. Just some extra links here from the various programs and schools, districts that we work with. Please feel free to browse those. And I'll turn it to Emily.
So we've kind of touched on a lot of this already, but just how do we collaborate and work together? And I think the big thing that I can throw into this is just student focused. So how do we work together but keep students at the center of the decisions we're making, and how we're working together to support them, and that we don't have to do it alone. It's not just on the counselor, it's not just on the district office, it's not just on the teachers. How do we work together to make sure that we're providing these opportunities for students, and to increase pathway completion as well? If you want to go to the next one, I'm going to breeze through these just because of time. And I was thinking, Kristen, if you're okay, we won't show the video, but reference the video, just on how we educate families and students. And I think, at least in our district, CTE is, for whatever reason, the best kept secret, and we shouldn't be a secret, because really, when I look at LCAP goals, when I look at the thought exchange at each of our schools, when parents and students and teachers are contributing, I see over and over college and career readiness, more career readiness, more career awareness. And I'm sitting there going, we have it, but they're not calling it CTE. They're not linking those two things together. So the outreach is such an important part of that, because it's putting that vocabulary into the conversation so that people are really understanding what CTE is, the importance of putting career first, right? In our district, we often call it intentional college search, right? Intentional college planning. So that those schools you're looking at are really based on, how do I get to my goal? Not just I'm going to go to college and figure it out, but how do I get to the goal, my career goal? And yes, it may change. It's going to change because, teenagers, they're still figuring it out. I'm still figuring it out, right? So those things are going to change and shape and kind of exactly what they look at like. But the more we can put career first and educate, the better students are going to be able to make informed decisions. And counselors, we are their number one resource. Like, we are the person that they want to hear from. So at the district level, I look at it like it's our responsibility to make sure our counselors are informed, and really have a clear understanding of CTE, what the courses are offered at their school, how do students become completers, how to market it. But counselors and teachers are the number one resource that students want to hear from. Middle school outreach. So this is what I actually presented on yesterday, was that middle to high school alignment and what CTE looks like in the middle school. And I think really, again, it's that early exposure, right? And really starting with kindergarten, but with middle school, you know, having pathway students lead an activity with 8th or 9th grade. So having our high schoolers go in and work and be the guest speakers. We're working right now with one of our middle schools and figuring out how can we bring our high schoolers from the high schools to their campus for the career fair. So now our middle schoolers aren't just going and speaking to future careers and to employees and businesses, but they're also talking to the high schoolers who are looking towards going into those areas, career areas as well. And they're now seeing the pathway to that career. And how can I start now with career planning? We also created some pathway documents in our district too that our teachers are really owning, so they can use that with course selection and educating students about what's next. All right, now we can go to the next one. I could go on about middle school forever, but you can look at our presentation from yesterday. Connecting to post-secondary options for students. So these are really the 4 areas, you know, that we're connecting with. For 4 years, something I always tell students is the deeper you go into a pathway, the more you learn about yourself. The more you learn about yourself, the better you can articulate yourself. So whether you're creating a portfolio through one of the art programs, that's going to help you with the college application process, or even just getting to know yourself. It shows commitment to something as you're creating a pathway or completing a pathway. If you're sitting in an interview or you're writing a personal statement, if you're a pathway completer, if you've really taken a deep dive into a career fair or a career pathway or a career area, you're going to better be able to articulate yourself in those settings, especially if you have confidence in what you've done in those areas. You can give examples of things you've done. That's going to make you stand out on a college application in a way that, you know, especially in a world where testing is now becoming optional, right? It's one more thing that's going to set you apart. And I think really the same is with community college, that alignment, that really knowing what's going to be my next step after high school. And then, you know, you're seeing more and more pre-apprenticeship programs in our high schools. So students really getting a taste of what does a fire academy look like? What is a building and construction trades? What does that look like? And getting a taste of those in high school. Same with military, really inviting them in as another option for post-secondary.
Emily, can I chime in real quick?
Yes, please.
For those on the call, Alex Becker and his listserv. I know we'll get to it.
Yes.
Emily and Kristen, we just talked about apprenticeships. Our local programs are offering virtual and in-person tours. We have key people in our county office that will hook you up. It's not a one-man show. There's so many people to help. Sorry to derail, but that was on my brain because an email just came out.
Yes, Alex Becker, and he actually helped me connect me with apprenticeships locally. I needed a panel, and I mean, turnaround time so fast, and it was an amazing panel that if you want to see it, it's on he's hosted them too. I mean, you don't even have to go to our website, but we do have it on our Poway CTE YouTube channel from our college and career showcase. But Alex Becker's put them together too, and they are recorded and available.
Awesome. So I'm going to touch a little bit about community college, and there's so many different opportunities within the community colleges, and that's why we're, you know, kind of really taking that K to 14, and it's free, not to mention, you know, all of the amazing opportunities for community college. These are just some resources that you have access to. So this is just from the Workforce Partnership, San Diego Workforce Partnership, and this is just talking about post-secondary options and different 2-year degrees, different 4-year programs or suggested majors. So these are kind of like one-sheeters and some information that you can access through them and their websites on the resources. We also have the regional website, careered.org. So you can really just click on that and really kind of it's your one-stop shop for any information around different careers. You can click on them. So I know, you know, it's hard to kind of educate yourself, but when you have a student that's like, this is what I'm interested in, this is where to go to kind of get some additional information. I'm not one to like research on my own all the time. So these are just really helpful. And we're just kind of breezing through these since it's the, for lack of time. And then here's the career ed guide. So if you click on this, this will bring you to a PDF document with all of the different sectors and what that looks like. And it will also bring you to show you where all the crosswalk guides are for the high school pathways and how it corresponds to what they offer in college. So I know for me, sometimes you don't know where things go. And so that's really helpful as well. So, and you can get all of these resources. I think you can actually get them on the Whova from this conference on the main page. You can request them to be sent to your site. So they're like beautiful, like paper and everything. So I would recommend doing that just so you have them for your students. So you can get the whole guide and then you can get the one-sheeters for each of the industry sectors. And then the program finder, this is the last thing I'm going to touch on, and then we can have a couple minutes for questions and answers. So program finder, this is amazing tool if you haven't heard about it. So for it's still being fully developed. They're working out all the tweaks, but before we had that like little tri-fold thing, that booklet that opened where you looked at the major, there was like check marks for which college had which program, and now it's like all online. And so it's a really, really great website. So you can click on that, you click on the career, or you can search for a specific program, and then you can look to see exactly what you're wanting to do, and then all the different colleges that have those that program come up, and you can click on them. So when you're working with a student right in front of you, you can go to this and help them actually find the different programs for their career they're interested in. If they don't want to go to the community college that's right by you, or maybe they don't have the program, somebody else, has a more extensive program, so you can do that. And, down here is the counselor resources. So this is, a little video for students. And then here's all the information for the crosswalk and a PowerPoint for, walking counselors through it. So all of the information is right there on the resources.
And if I could jump in real quick too, is something that was brought to our attention last year by our SDCOE liaison to Palomar, is that Palomar College has a pathway finder, which I clicked on it and it was like, oh my gosh, where has this been all of my life? So I don't know if the other community colleges have one or not, but oh my goodness, it was just, I could really dive deep into what are the CTE pathways at Palomar and very clearly see how they align with what we're doing. But more than that, like refer students to it. And it was very user-friendly. But I seriously had no idea it even existed. So I would definitely encourage you to look at your community colleges and ask those questions, whichever school is closest to you or that your students feed into. But yeah, that was an amazing find that I'm really grateful to know about. So
great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then these are just some action steps. So just with time's sake, we won't, have you share them in the chat, but just think of one of these action steps and something that you physically can do after this, like knowing now hopefully a little bit more about CTE or connecting students, and just kind of some key takeaways you can bring back to your team or a specific student you can reach out to connect them with one of the pathways that you have. And I will wrap up by saying this. I know it can be really overwhelming as a school counselor. We have so many other things going on, and especially, post-pan or in the middle of the pandemic and all the social emotional needs. And, this can be overwhelming, but you're not the one that has to do all of the legwork. Getting students into the classes and working with them for registration. And then the classes do a lot of the work and do all of the exposure and get them into that career, or maybe they don't want to do that anymore. So I would just recommend really to, you don't have to do all of the work, but reach out if you need help around this to your district office, to your administration, to one of us to say, hey, brainstorm on different things you can do, or if you're having you want to troubleshoot or have any problems that are going on, at your site or district, we can all work together. And that's what the beauty of collaboration is. So I would just highly recommend that you bring these back to your sites. And then here are the resources that we have. So a lot of these were plugged in the presentation, but they're all kind of right here. So you can just click off of those. And then do we have any questions, Priscilla? I know we're like right at the mark, but.
We don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
So if any want to come through, and I did post some links as well. You can find the Career Ed Guide and those sector handouts. I posted the link there through the WOVA site. But yeah, it looks like, let me see.
Wonderful. So here's all of our email addresses.
We actually did have one come in here.
Great.
Are CTE pathways influenced by socioeconomic advantages?
Yes, the question would be, is the course offerings at the high school based on that? I think we could each speak to it. I know for us, it's based on the forecast of the job markets that are projected in years to come. And, the goal is that it's, everyone gets access and opportunity. So it's not strategically focused for that particular cohort. It's the exposure for all based on where the job markets are for our area.
Certainly, and to piggyback on that, exactly that. We're looking at what are the high demand, high wage careers in our area, and then we're crossing that with student interest. What do the students want? What do they need? And so how do we prepare them for those careers regardless of their background? With that being said, certainly there's an awareness. If there's an area, for instance, engineering, more females, more students of color. We've talked to San Marcos several times, and they're really looking for more teachers of color and male teachers. So how do we help market to students so that we're actually showing them that, hey, this is an industry where you're needed, and really supporting them through that. Absolutely. I think that's happening. But as far as what the offerings are, it really is based on labor market and student interest and demand and that kind of data. Does that answer the question? Or Kristen, did you want to chime in on that?
No, I think that you guys hit it on the head. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, we don't have any other questions, so I just want to thank you so much for providing all of these amazing resources and information. Anyone who is still on the call, please make sure to rate the session. And thank our speakers so much. A huge virtual round of applause.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, everyone.